Hi everybody, it's Meg from Books Off the Beaten Path, and it's time for another early morning book review. Today we will be reviewing one of my favorite books I've read so far this year. This is Judy Bolton, The Mystery of the Haunted Attic. Now, this was, let me get a copyright for you here. That's my Find the Copyright song. 1932. So this is 1932, and it's not in the best of shape. A couple of pages are torn, and you can see the bottom here doesn't look that good and everything like that, but I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It took me 2 days to read, two and a half days to read, and it was wonderful. So let me set it up for you. So Judy Bolton and her family, unbeknownst to me, because this is the only second, I think it's the second one in the series. Let me look. Yeah, it's the second one in the series. Unbeknownst to me, Judy Bolton's family home has been washed away from a flood by a dam breaking, and so they have to move to this other town, and the only house they can get into is the town's notorious haunted house. And it was owned by a woman gangster who had these sons that followed her into gangsterhood, and people hear all sorts of weird noises in there, and they hear scratching, and they hear all sorts of strange noises. But one of the things they hear a lot of is "Hello, stranger," like this weird voice coming from the attic. So of course Horace, who is Judy's brother, and he's the newspaper guy, and Judy are so excited to move into the haunted house, as I would be. I would be excited to move into the haunted house too, but they're so excited to move into the haunted house because they know ghosts don't exist, and they're going to debunk this mystery. And so they move into the haunted house, and of course they debunk the mystery. I won't tell you, I'll tell you a couple of things about the mystery. Well, there's some jewels they find hidden in a tree. There's some love letters that go along with the mystery. But the reason that Judy Bolton, in my opinion, is far superior than Nancy Drew is that Judy Bolton had a life outside of her mystery. So she has to go to this new high school, right? She has to go to this new high school, and of course none of the girls like her. And the biggest mean girl, her name is Lorraine. And Lorraine does not like Judy from the get-go. And there's also, because Judy's kind of living, this haunted house is sort of on the outskirts of the bad part of town, and so she meets these girls called the Mill Girls, and the Mill Girls work at the mill. They work at the local silk mill. They do also go to school, but they go to an industrial school, like a trade school. And Judy meets this girl, Irene, who's very talented musically, and they like each other and everything like that. They begin to strike up a friendship, and she talks about it at the high school that she's going to, which is the Upper Crust High School. And she gets told by one of her friends that if she hangs out with the mill girl, then they can't be friends anymore, because that would just be horrible. They can't be friends anymore. So we have this whole subplot of Judy fitting into this new town and figuring out this new town and figuring out the social hierarchy and everything like that. And that's one of the reasons that I think she's far superior to Nancy Drew. And I like the earlier Nancy Drews and everything like that, but really Nancy Drew was about the mystery, and pretty much her home life was pretty steady going, and it was, always okay and everything like that. Well, it's not always okay with Judy, which makes her a much more believable character, in my opinion, and much more enjoyable to read. But I loved The Haunted Attic. I loved it. I thought it was just so well done. And the reveal at the end, when she and Horace revealed everything at the end and how they figured out the ghosts, and of course they catch the bad guys and everything like that. But it's not the bad guys just hanging out in the attic. It's much more complicated than that. And I just loved it. I just thought it was super fantastic, awesome, great. So highly recommend, gave it a 5 stars on Goodreads. And I have started reading The Women, about the nurses in Vietnam, because I've heard so many good things about that. But what I'm going to do is I've got a project coming up that I want to tell you guys about. So my writing is going well, but you know, I did that little video where I told you that my ending is like the 6th worst ending out of 1 through 10. It's the 6th worst. I have to figure out how to save that book because I put too much work in it to have it just flop. And so I've got that going on, but I've also decided to do a compare and contrast exercise. Because I have been asked many times by my friend Sarah, as a matter of fact, she was the one who asked me most recently, why I love vintage so much. And I don't know that I can articulate it. I've thought about it. It's not the pacing, it's not the words, it's not the situation. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. But what I did was I went to the library with my mom over the weekend. And, you know, my mom is getting a trifle deaf. And we go to the library, and she's real loud, and because she can't hear herself. And so we're at the library, and she's like, Meg, I can't find my glasses. I have them in the bottom of my purse. And I'm like, okay, I can find them. I'll find the glasses. So I sat her down at the table because, you know, she's still messing with that broken ankle. It's never going to heal, right? And I went around and I went to different sections of the library, and I pulled out some books that I could compare against the books that I like to read. So like The Women is my Cherry Ames comparison. So like Nurse. And then I've got my John Dickinson car, and then I got a locked room mystery. And I mean, you don't have to worry about it now. I don't want you up at night worried about it now, because I'm going to show you all the books and what I'm going to compare them to. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to read these modern books against my vintage books, and then maybe I will be able to articulate why I like vintage so much. Maybe I will. I don't know. I have high hopes. But anyway, it's a Monday. Oh, and Mother's Day was yesterday. And so I go on and tell you really fast about my Mother's Day. And I got a new journal, which I'll have to show you. It's in the other room, and I don't have time to edit and go get it and everything like that. But I got a new journal, which, you know, I journal every day. Somebody out there, and I want to say it was Pickles, was talking about self-help things. Man, do your morning pages. Do your journal every morning. I don't do a gratitude journal. I tried that and it just didn't work for me or anything like that. I don't do anything like that. I just write down what I feel as soon as I get up. If I had a dream, if it's good, what the weather's like. You know, I just write stuff. I just open the page and write stuff. And if you ever read The Artist Way, which you should, it's called Morning Pages, and I'm very addicted to morning pages. So now I got a new journal for my morning pages, and then I spent the whole day sleeping. I skipped church. I spent the whole day sleeping. Jamie, my beloved husband, made me a nice little brunch thing, and he made me a mimosa. And that was wonderful, and that was great, and it was just a fantastic Mother's Day, and I hope you guys had a fantastic Mother's Day too. I did nothing, and it was one of the best days of my life, you know, because we moms are, and you know, not to say that, you know, men don't have the same thing, but we end up being like the big caregivers and everything like that, and the laundry doers. And I mean, Jimmy is very good about doing all of that kind of stuff, but I mean, I did nothing. yesterday, and it was fantastic. So anyway, back to the early morning book review. Judy Bolton, she has a life outside of her mysteries. She is smart, she is courageous, and she gets hurt. And you see that hurt. And she's like a normal teenage girl. You're like a normal teenage girl. Whereas Nancy Drew was very much not a normal teenage girl. She never had problems with money. She never had problems with friends or anything like that. So you want to read some really good mysteries? Read some Judy Bolton. Well, I have just flipped all around in this video with all sorts of different topics, but my next video is I'm going to show you my modern books that I got to compare to my vintage books, and that'll probably be tomorrow or Wednesday that I do that video. But anyway, I hope you guys have a fantastic Monday, and I will check you later.